This isn't going to be a review since so much of what's in Doctor Who Flux Chapter 1, the Halloween Apocalypse, is all set up, and because of that I won't really be able to judge it fairly until once the series is over. But I did want to share a few thoughts and concerns of where we're up to so far now that we're an episode in. Firstly, as I say, the majority of this is all set up, which isn't necessarily a bad thing with a 6-part story, but in an ideal world you want your first episode to still be engaging and hook the audience in, even if most of it is spent flitting around establishing new locations and characters. And I'm going to be honest, the writing in this could have done more to win my investment. There's a common fallacy that more is better when it comes to stakes in storytelling, when in fact the most powerful drama often comes from low-stakes personal conflict as opposed to a world-ending threat. I say this because with Doctor Who Flux, Chris Chibnall has ramped up the stakes about as high as you can go, with a cataclysmic event that could be the end of the universe. And yet even as the episode ends with the Flux approaching the TARDIS about to wipe the Doctor out of existence, the threat feels kind of hollow, and it's because there's nothing personal or character-driven at stake. Sure, we've seen the Flux destroy a few planets with some impressive-looking special effects, so we know it is something to be concerned about, but none of those planets mean anything to our main characters. What we really needed was an I can't see Traken moment, Logopolis style, to truly validate the threat. For those that don't know, Tom Baker's final story has a very similar situation where a wave of entropy is tearing across the universe, snuffing it out of existence, and at one point Nyssa realises she can no longer see her home planet, which was introduced to the audience in the preceding story. It's a devastating moment that solidifies the apocalyptic stakes in a way that is very personal to the character with a fraction of the current series budget. The Halloween apocalypse could really have benefited from more quieter moments like that to reflect and take stock, but in typical Chibnall style, the episode just rushes from one location to the next without ever really pausing to process what is happening and why it matters. Okay, I've complained enough now, so let's move on to the positives, because there are some positives to take away from this episode. I admire Chibnall's commitment to following through with the Division story arc, especially given the divided response to the Timeless Children. Too often in the past, the show has caved in too quickly to fan backlash, like with the new Paradigm Daleks, for instance, that lasted all of 2 stories before being quietly dropped. Chibnall was also kind of guilty of this himself with the heavy fan service and recurring villains in Series 12, which, whether intentional or not, certainly came across as a response to the misguided backlash against Series 11 having no returning villains. Now that Chibnall has completely torn up the lore of the show, we may as well at least see his full vision play out. I mean, wherever he decides to go with the Division arc and how successful it ultimately is, I'd rather it be an ambitious failure than a cowardly retreat. Unfortunately, it appears that he is following through, as now that the Doctor has sort of come to terms with the Timeless Child revelations, she still wants answers, and I expect we'll get some of those answers as the series progresses. The other positive thing I wanted to talk about is Yaz. It's implied that she has now been travelling with the 13th Doctor for quite a long time, and you can definitely see the effect that it has had on her, as she is now a hardened veteran of the lifestyle, easily able to manipulate alien tech or help to operate the TARDIS. It's interesting to see how in Clara-esque fashion she seems to be emulating the Doctor more and more in her behaviour. There's even a subtle line in there which indicates she has quit her job as a police officer, furthering the sense that she has effectively gone native and abandoned her old life, all of which tracks with what we saw in Revolution of the Daleks and her obsession with finding the Doctor again. I appreciate how all of this character progression is there in the episode, but Chibnall doesn't patronisingly spell it out, something which he has been guilty of in the past. It will be interesting to see if this addiction to the lifestyle is really healthy for Yaz and where it ultimately leads her. Now, of course, there's loads of other stuff going on in the episode, like the subplots with the Weeping Angels, the Sontarans, and I haven't even touched on Dan yet. I've seen a lot of people enamoured with John Bishop's character on Twitter, and again, I'm just going to wait to pass judgment. What I've seen of him so far is fine, but he does come across as just another present-day ordinary Earth Northerner with little to distinguish him from Chibnall's other companions. Maybe if he gets more character development in the upcoming episodes, I'll warm to him a bit more. But honestly, at this point, I'm almost starting to miss the Stephen Moffat school of characterisation, and that's something I never thought I'd say. Anyway, here's hoping we get a satisfying payoff to everything that's been set up. As this isn't a review, I don't really have a conclusion, so I'm just going to throw it over to you. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the Halloween apocalypse, and you can also join in the discussion over on the Criticism of Doctor Who Without Bigotry Twitter account. I'll put the link to that down in the description. I do intend to properly review the series once it has concluded, so if you'd like to see that, then be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm Midnight Chimes, and I travel in time and space. And trains.